remains in the hearts of heroes. One that can never go out.
Hey guys, my name is Shroomy. I have a lot of different names and I just really like lore. Well, after my last video with Doomfist and me complaining about the core plot of the season not really moving, we finally have a continuation of the actual Season 3 story. Of course, I'm talking about the new Kiriko comic that just came out, The Paths We Choose. This one was pretty good. I have some thoughts about it that I'm going to share at the end after a little recap, but yeah, massive spoilers ahead as we break down the comic, and I point out all the little lore things that are important in this going into the future. As usual, don't forget to like and subscribe. All that stuff really helps the channel, and it helps me see what you guys like out of this stuff. So, yeah. Anyways, we'll go into this by starting with a little recap, then I'm just going to start yapping about my thoughts on everything, because I have a lot. I have a lot. The story begins with a glimpse into Kiriko's past, and the day the Hashimoto took her father. They knew this day was coming, and Toshiro gave himself up to protect his family. Kiriko trained her whole life to save her dad, and as we cut back to the present, that day was finally here. Kiriko and the yokai were currently infiltrating a Hashimoto base, not only to save her father, but also Genji, who had come home to help them defeat Talon, but was kidnapped in the short story The Fall of a Sparrow. The events of this comic take place and pick up where Mizuki's comic Cursebreaker came off a little bit ago, so yeah. They find and rescue Genji, who is being held in a prison cell. Kiriko offers to Genji to head back with Chikasa, but he declines, saying he must stay and fight. They head to the Anima Forge, where they find Mizuki and her father, Toshiro. Kiriko is shocked to see her dad, but extremely happy. She hugs him, and notices how Toshiro and Mizuki seemingly know each other. They destroy the forge and save Toshiro, but after the heist, Kiriko and Mizuki have a small talk. He tells her the truth, and while Kiriko can't hate Mizuki, she doesn't forgive him for being a member of the Hashimoto, and almost betraying the entire team. She tells him to leave the yokai, and as he sets off on his new journey, Genji approaches him with an offer. He tells him to join Overwatch, where he should learn to be a better person. Mizuki accepts, and officially leaves the yokai, joining Overwatch with Sojourn. Genji at the end decides to stay away from Overwatch and be in Japan, to help his home and to free them of the tiger, and Shion's grasp. So, yeah, that is the new short story. And with it, I have a lot of thoughts, like I said before. So, we'll start off by going over a lot of my little things I noticed, and then we'll be getting into my kind of cons and talking about what I didn't really like with this story. But let's focus on the pros first. First off, Mizuki's been a character that desperately needed a lot of lore, and with this story beat, he's finally at the point he was probably meant to always get to. Way back in Season 1, they kind of assigned him like next to Onron and Jetpack Cat as Team Overwatch's new heroes. We kind of all wondered why. Well, here's why. He's joining Overwatch as its newest recruit. This, I think, is going to be a pretty good moment for him, but also a pretty good moment for a new character to join into the ranks, and just kind of giving him something to talk to or be involved with other heroes. That's kind of the main purpose of this, and that's kind of the main goal, which, of course, he had to leave the yokai for. I'm really happy Hanzo and Kiriko did not end up joining Overwatch, speaking of. I think their stories wouldn't really align with what Overwatch is trying to do, and, well, just makes more sense for them to stay in Japan. But the thing I was really shocked with is Genji is staying in Japan, which is a pretty big deal. In Overwatch Undivided and in a couple of the expanded material things, Genji and Cassidy have both been debating leaving Overwatch for a little while now, and yeah, we finally see that Genji is gone. He's staying in Japan to protect his home from the Hashimoto. This is a big moment for his character, because for the longest time, he seemingly kind of didn't want to go home or was kind of glancing to the side, focusing on other things. But he's finally ready. He's standing alongside Kiriko and Hanzo. This, all in all, was a pretty cool moment for me. I don't really mind him leaving Overwatch, but it does get into one of my cons that we'll discuss a little bit later. Another thing I want to mention with this story, the yokai. We got to see a little bit more of them, and it was just really cool to get a little moment for each of them. They all got to do something in this, even if it was just standing around. So, yeah. Any moments that we get with them, I think, is better. Especially because I think Mizuki really does need to have more of those building moments with everyone but Kiriko. He has a ton of interactions in-game that talk about, well, his relationship with Kiriko, obviously, and kind of the other people's relationships, but we don't really know how each of them feels about Mizuki and, well, how most of them feel about the yokai. So any little narrative beat with them is always welcome. A big favorite of mine was when Kiriko said that Genji can leave with Chikasa. I thought that was really cool because I'm just a big Chikasa fan. Number one, no, I'm not number one, but I'm up there. I'm up there. Another big moment in this that I think is something we need to talk about is Animatech, and of course, Toshiro. So, Toshiro is alive. I thought for a little bit maybe he would die, or maybe something would happen to him, where he wouldn't be able to continue being a character in the story, because Animatech is kind of a weird thing that sits in limbo. And what I mean by that is, Animatech doesn't really have a full-on explanation, and Toshiro's really the only one who could make it as far as we know. So, getting rid of that character would have made a little bit of sense. However, everything with the raid went pretty perfectly. Genji got saved, the Hashimoto's forge was destroyed, and Toshiro was rescued. Those are pretty much all big beats that had to get done, and they did it. So, the raid was a resounding success. Toshiro obviously went back home with them, and there's a bunch of voice lines in-game talking about it now. But, yeah. I am really curious where they're going to take Toshiro and this entire storyline going forward, because one character in this storyline was pretty absent through it all, which was really disappointing. Shion, of course, was not really in this story. Her being the new character and all, I really expected her to be more involved in this storyline here. I could be proven wrong, we do have a couple more story tabs or story beats coming down the road, and of course, we're probably going to be getting at least one more that focuses maybe on Shion reporting to Vendetta about everything failing here. But yeah, I think overall, this part of the narrative with Shion was kind of really underutilized. She doesn't really feel like a new hero. She feels like a really cool lore character at the moment. And what do I mean by this? Well, let's compare her to Mauga in Overwatch 1. Back in the day, Mauga was a really cool lore character that people wanted as a hero, but the reason people wanted him was because he had a big moment in, of course, Baptiste's story back in the day. He was really important to Baptiste and just had a really cool vibe and kind of player fantasy. Shion, once again, fits that to a T for me. In Mizuki's story Cursebreaker, she fits that kind of exact archetype of getting to see a little bit of her, getting to see what she could be as a hero, and her vanishing afterwards, leaving her open-ended. And yeah, after that, we haven't really gotten anything with Shion. So she doesn't really feel like a playable hero just yet. She feels like that moment before you become a playable hero, where you should have been built up or hyped for it more. That's really a shame, because she's really the highlight of the season. Same with Sierra last season, who didn't really get much, but I think it's done way worse here. Shion is probably my biggest flaw with this, and I wish we had gotten a little bit more on her, but yeah. Another thing with this story that I haven't really mentioned yet is, of course, the ending. So, it seems like Sojourn is okay with Genji staying out of Overwatch and allowing Mizuki to join, based on this interaction at the end, where it's the one panel of Mizuki shaking Sojourn's hand. So, yeah. It seems like he's going to be going over there, and we may even see him in Undivided in the future. Who knows, though? I do think Mizuki's story will ultimately lead to him coming back to Japan, and Genji's will probably lead to him going back to Overwatch. They're just going to be taking some time away for a while. Genji, I think, is just really homesick and wants to protect his home, and Mizuki needs to leave Japan. He needs to find out who he wants to be, and get that kind of moment to himself. I like how those two, their stories are ending, but they're going to be going back on each other. Bit of an intertwinement there if you think about it, where they're beginning and where they're ending. My only real con with this story and kind of the narrative right now is everything here happened really fast and kind of wrapped up neatly with a bow on top of it. Everything here was resolved within one comic pretty much, a lot of things, and we've only really had like an intro comic, a middle kind of story, and an end comic. That sounds good on paper, but for the scope of this narrative, I was really hoping this would be season-wide. However, it's not really looking like that. I don't really know what else there is to do in this narrative, but I wouldn't be shocked if we got at least one more epilogue thing like I said before. That's my biggest critique here, and of course, I do want to mention as well, I really wish Hanzo had gotten to do more in this story. Hanzo's a character who really doesn't get a lot of spotlight and much, so I was really looking forward to him finally being one of the main characters here. But you could really erase him from this narrative and nothing would essentially change, which is a shame. I like Hanzo a lot, so I really wish he got to do a little bit more here, but he's probably my biggest critique with all this. Just give him something. Kiriko got a comic, and Genji got a short story. It only makes sense that Hanzo deserves something down the road. Hopefully they do that for him this season. These are all my thoughts on the new comic. What did you guys think of the comic? Did you enjoy it? Did you not like it? Tell me all about it below. I'm a bit mixed on this one, like I said before. Overall, I really don't mind where things went, but man, I think it just got here way too quick. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about it though below. Anyways, that's all from me, and I'll see you guys in the next one.